Good evening, everyone. This is Mike. Welcome back to my channel and another chapter, another episode of the Five Grumpy Old, or is it Five Old Grumpy? I keep getting mixed up. Five Grumpy Old Gentlemen. Although the word we're using is not really gentlemen, it's actually bastards. But I can't say that too loudly because YouTube doesn't like it. They already kicked our channel off of YouTube because we use that word. So, Five Grumpy Old Gentlemen. And you'll find that some of us are more grumpy than others. I'm not going to mention any names. But we get together it's going to be once a month. We all vote on what movie to watch, and we all watch it together, sort of together, and then do different videos. So the film that was chosen this week by our friend Harry Benson, Macca Photos, is The Searchers from 1956, directed by John Ford, classic Western, starring John Wayne. Let's see. And it's not just five grumpy old bastards anymore. We have six, actually, because Bob Harrison, our friend from Canada, he did a video about The Searchers before any of us did. So I guess now we're up to six. So, Bob, you're one of us now. You got to keep going. We have Jay, we have James, we have Ian, we have Harry, we have me, and we have Bob. So anybody else wants to join in, we'll make it 7, 8, 9, and we'll just keep raising the bar here. So you see on this video, or on this disc, it says disc number 1. So this was obviously taken out of a 2-disc set that came out at some point, but I got it in this compilation box set of 20 films starring John Wayne. Okay, so John Wayne stars in the film, one of the best performances he ever gave in a very, very adult, very dark Western. We also have Jeffrey Hunter, Vera Miles, Ward Bond, Natalie Wood, John Quaylen, Olive Carey, Ken Curtis, Harry Carey Jr., Pippa Scott, Dorothy Jordan, Lana Wood, who is Natalie's younger sister, and Patrick Wayne, who is John Wayne's 15-year-old son. He has a very small part, very good part as a soldier in this movie. Okay, so I think a lot of people, anybody who's going to be watching this video, I'm sure you know all about The Searchers, the plot. It takes place a few years after the Civil War, and John Wayne plays Ethan Edwards. He was a member of the Confederacy during the war, and he has done some other things after the war. He's been gone for a long time. Finally gets around to returning to his brother's family, his brother and his brother's wife, Martha, and their 2 children. No, they have 3 children, and an adopted son who is part Cherokee, played by Jeffrey Hunter. Now, when Ethan comes home, we see a lot of meaningful looks, and we sense a lot of strong chemistry between Ethan and his brother's wife, Martha. And we wonder, did they... Well, obviously they care about each other very deeply. It's not really spoken what has happened in their lives, if they had a relationship at some point, but he loves her very much. And we also sense a lot of racial prejudice from Ethan towards the part Cherokee kid played by Jeffrey Hunter. His name is Martin Pauly in the film, and he describes himself as being 1/8 Cherokee, but Ethan looks at him like, I mean, he calls him a half-breed, and he just does not want this kid in the house or in the family. Well, so as things go on in the plot, there's a raid by Comanches, and everybody in this family is killed. The father, the wife, the son is also killed. The 2 girls, one of whom is a teenager, played by Pippa Scott. Her name is Lucy in the film. She is abducted along with the little girl Debbie, who was only 8, played by Lana Wood. And Martin Pauly goes with Ethan and a group of other men to search for these 2 girls to bring them back. And they find out very quickly that Lucy has been raped and killed. And so after that, it becomes just Ethan and Martin searching for Debbie, and they are searching for her for 5 years, And there are a lot of subplots along the way involving other people that they know, because they come back for a while away from the search and get involved with the people that they knew. And it's a very rich and very fascinating story. But what is at the heart of the story and what makes it so dark and so serious is Ethan and his hatred of the Indians and his serious feelings about racism, and specifically miscegenation, which is a word you don't hear much about anymore. But miscegenation is a term that means sexual relations between people of different races. Now, in this day and age, it doesn't mean that much to most people. We're getting so used to seeing interracial marriages and relationships, mixed race children everywhere, and it's just not that big of a thing anymore. But up until not that long ago in this country, it was a very important concept, and there were a lot of states that had laws against miscegenation. I don't think there are anymore. I would be very surprised if they were. So Ethan is concerned that Debbie will be defiled by getting into some sort of a marital relationship with an Indian man, and he says that for her to live with the Indians, it would be worse than being dead. So his intent is to kill her, and he actually attempts to do that once when they find her. But Martin, who of course loves her as his adopted sister, and he is also mixed race himself, he shields her and he tries to get Ethan to change his mind. Well, of course, at the end of the film, and I know I'm giving away a plot point here if you haven't seen it, but at the end of the film, they have a chance to get Debbie back again, and she runs from Ethan because she is terrified that he's going to kill her, because she has told him previously, "These are my people now, and you need to leave because the Indians will kill you." So she's trying to save their lives, but she's saying that this is where I belong now. And according to it's not really made clear in the film, unless I just missed it, where they actually established that she was one of the wives of the chief of this specific Comanche tribe. But I was reading about the plot in Wikipedia, and it said, yeah, she was definitely one of the wives. So yeah, she was in a relationship with this man. And anyway, but at the end of the film, Ethan, instead of killing her, he says, "Let's go home." So whether he has completely changed in his heart what he was thinking about Debbie being with an Indian man, he takes her home and allows her to go back to her family, and at the end of the film, there's a very famous shot where Ethan is standing in the doorway of the house, and he just starts to walk away all by himself. And I can't help but wonder if Ethan is leaving because he knows that he cannot live in the new world that is coming into existence, where people will be forgiving of interracial relationships, and it will become more normalized. I don't know, it's kind of an interesting concept, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, I don't know, but I find it to be a very, very powerful story, and it had a lot to say to the people of 1956 in America, who were going through a lot of these different very important questions. Okay, so about the film, let's see. Now, I had some things written down here, probably that aren't terribly important. Now, of course, Natalie Wood has a smaller part in this film, but it's a very crucial part. I mean, even if Debbie doesn't have a lot of screen time, they're always talking about where is Debbie. So the younger version of Debbie is played by her little sister Alana, and then Natalie, who I think was maybe 18 at this time. The film she had done previously was, of course, Rebel Without a Cause, and she had become a big star. After having been a child actress for many years and always doing well and never really going through an awkward stage like a lot of child actors and actresses do, she was a beautiful child, she was a beautiful teenager, and then she very quickly became a beautiful adult. And she had gotten a lot of acclaim and an Academy Award nomination for Rebel Without a Cause, and then this came along, and after that she was a big, big star in Hollywood. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Let's see. Oh, one thing I wanted to talk about. Now, let's see. The guy, Harry made a comment in his video about how the Indian chief, like a lot of Indians in Westerns, were played by white actors in Indian paint. And that is absolutely true. That had been going on ever since the silent era, where they had white actors, Italians or whoever, playing Indians and not looking at all like real Indians. Now, in The Searchers, they used a lot of Native American actors and actresses, usually just as extras, part of the tribes and all that sort of thing. But there was an actor named Henry Brandon who played the Comanche chief Scar, who is looked upon as being a dangerous villain. But as we learn something about Scar and why he was so vicious toward the white people, we find out that his sons were also killed by the white people, and he was doing this for vengeance. So it gave his character a little bit of a context and a little bit of humanity, and it made people who watched the film look at the incidences between the white people and the Indians in our history in a slightly different light that maybe hadn't been approached before. So anyway, here's something I found out about Henry Brandon. This guy was born in 1912. Very intense actor. I don't remember ever hearing that name before, so I didn't know who he was. He had a whole string of films beginning in 1932 with a small part in the film called The Sign of the Cross. So he'd been around for a long time. He was in the 1948 film Joan of Arc with Ingrid Bergman, and he also, let's see, he played a lot of non-white characters. He played a lot of Native Americans. He played Asians. He was in a film or a serial in 1940 called The Drums of Fu Manchu. Now, Fu Manchu was a famous Chinese villain, played originally by, I think the first man that played him was Boris Karloff in 1931 or 32, something like that. So he made a serial called The Drums of Fu Manchu in 1940 at Republic Studios. Very popular, but Republic Studios, at the request of the United States government, actually pulled that from the theaters. They stopped playing it because they were afraid it was going to cause anti-Chinese sentiment in the United States. And at that time, going into World War II, the Chinese were our allies against the Japanese. So that's how crazy all this stuff gets. Anyway, so he made a long string of films. Now, this is interesting because he was married at some point, 1941 to 1946. He was married and he had a son. And after his divorce, later on he got into a long relationship with a not terribly successful actor named Mark Herron. The only thing that I've ever seen Mark Herron in, he had a very small part in Fellini's 8 1/2 in 1963. Mark Herron, they were involved up until the time when Mark Herron, in the mid-1960s, left Henry Brandon to get married to Judy Garland and become her fourth husband. They were married for 5 months until Judy kicked him out, and then he went back to Henry Brandon, and they lived together until Henry Brandon died in 1990. So, and you can also see him in another Native American role in a John Ford film called Two Rode Together in 1961. A very good movie. Very good movie. He also was in the movie Assault on Precinct 13 in 1976. Jay, take a look at this. He played a character named Sergeant Cheney. So I need to go back and look at that movie and see Henry Brandon as a much older man. But anyway, interesting little trivia for you. And this is 14 minutes of your life. And that's it. That's my little bit of a commentary on The Searchers. And I hope that you're not fast asleep. Comments are welcome.